Hello everybody, in this video we're going to look at ifs, elifs, and elses. Alright, let's get going. So in the previous video, you may have wondered why we're learning about Booleans. It doesn't seem like it applies to anything. Booleans are kind of like spices in that you're not making an entire course out of them, you're using Booleans in things. And we're going to show you how now. Alright, let's take a real life situation. Let's say you have a lot of money, and if that's over $2,000, I'm going to buy myself a Gucci handbag. If I don't have quite $2,000, but let's say I have $600, I'll buy myself a Coach handbag. And if I don't have enough money, I'll save my money. The code to do this looks something like this. Whenever we're trying to test different scenarios, we have an if, we have a Boolean, which is what we're testing. We have a Boolean, which is what we're testing, and then we have a colon at the end of the line. And then the next line is indented, and that is the code associated with the if. After that, we have an elif for another scenario we're testing, the other scenario we're testing with that Boolean, and a colon at the end. And again, we have the code associated with that particular elif, that particular condition, which is indented. This goes on and on for as many elifs as we want. And finally, we have an else with a colon at the end. There's no Boolean this time. We're not testing for anything in particular because the else is a catch-all for everything else that we haven't caught yet. Let's program this now. So I have a variable money, and I'm going to set that equal to 5,000. Next, I do if Boolean expression colon. So I check the Boolean, money is greater than 2,000, that's true. It will do the stuff that's part of the if, which is the print I'm gonna buy a Gucci handbag. And the stuff that comes next and is indented is part of the if. If I change money to 1,000, then this Boolean will be false. So it does not run the stuff that's inside the if. And that's the first scenario, ifs only. We'll do the next scenario, which is an if with an else. So now my money's back to 5,000. So the Boolean inside the if, money is greater than 2,000. That's true. So it will print the code associated with the if, which is I will buy a Gucci handbag. In a scenario where money is 1,000, then the Boolean inside this if is not true. It's false. So it will not do that. And instead it will print the else code, which is sort of a catch-all in case I don't match anything earlier. So now I'm going to add some more scenarios. And if you ever say the phrase testing or testing scenarios, then ifs, elifs, and elses should come to mind. So here we are, we're back to $5,000. This Boolean money is greater than 2,000 is true, so it will do the code associated with the if. And then it's going to say, I'm out of here, man. It's not going to look at any of the other elifs or elses or anything like that. As soon as we find one that matches, we're done. All right, so then I have a scenario where money is 1,000. Then the Boolean associated with the if, money is greater than 2,000, that's false. The next Boolean associated with the elif, that's true, so it'll run the code associated with that elif. And so on and so forth. If I change my money to 15, it will go through all the Booleans until it finds one that's true. That's money is greater than 10, and it will print I'm going to buy a pack of gum. If I change my money to 1, it'll go through all the Booleans, they'll all be false, and then once I get to the end, it will run this else code, which is catch-all for all other scenarios. Finally, I'm going to show you don't have to have an else, so I could get rid of the else here, and this code is fine too. All that means is I don't have a catch-all at the end, in case I don't match any of the ifs or the elifs. Alright, so here are the common mistakes that people make with ifs, elifs, and elses. So the first type of mistake has to do with the Boolean. All of these have Booleans inside of them, and so all the mistakes that you make with Booleans are also the same mistakes that you make with ifs and elifs. So one of those has to do with types. Remember, if something comes out of input, it is a string. So number in this case is a string. So if I'm comparing a string 1 to integer 1, they're never going to be equal. This will not behave as I expect it to behave. And I can fix it by casting number. So the most common one is when people are comparing things that are equal, that needs to be 2 equal signs, not 1 equal sign. And the little silly mistakes people make with ifs, they'll forget to type this colon at the end, and when they do, they get an invalid syntax, they get a syntax error. In this example, it shows you which line it is, which gives you a hint. The other mistake they'll do is forget to indent. So any lines of code that are part of the if need to be indented. So here's one indentation error, so that should give you a hint. If you see an indentation error, you should think indentations. So when I indent it, it works. And every line that's part of this if needs to be indented, not just one. And the last mistake I'm going to talk about is when students do if, when they should do if, elif. So an example here, let's say number is equal to 2. It's going to run all of these lines of code, highlighted blue lines, 7 lines of this code, even though it only really needs to run 3. If instead I use if, elif, it will only run 3 lines of code. So in this example with if, I'm running a lot more code than I need to run, and that's inefficient. The other thing that can happen, students will accidentally turn one of these into an if. So in this example here, I'm again running 7 lines of code. At best is inefficient, and at worst, weird things happen when I have an else in there. and sometimes you'll see a question just like this on the APCSP written exam. The bottom line is if you're doing like a test for one thing, and you're picking just one thing, then that should be an if, elif, elif, elif. Lastly, I just want to go over some terminology. So if-else's are called conditionals. It's because we're asking a question in the if-else, and the code it runs is conditional on what that expression is. For the APCSP exam, you will see another term called selection. It also includes try-excepts, which we're not going to go over here. For the APCSP exam, this term selection will show up. So you want to know that when you see selection, just think if-else's, and you'll be good to go. All right, here I'm going to go over the solutions to the lab. If you haven't tried them yet, please pause the video and try them now. All right, so for the first one, it's talking about if. It just wants to print an if. So I'll make an if right now. If, I can use the starter code right there if I want to. So I'll say if banana, string banana is equal to string banana, colon, 2 equal sign when I'm doing a comparison, 2 equal sign, I'll print out you might be a minion or something like that. I'll run that, and it's good. See, the indentation's done automatically for me. Here it seems to do 2. I could do 2 or I could do 4. Either one is okay. So 2 spaces for indentation or 4 spaces for indentation. Either one is okay. All right, for this next one, it wants me to do an if, elif, else of any sort. So I'll do that now. I could even copy and paste what's in there and just modify it a little bit. So let's do it. So here I'm going to say strawberries is equal to 100, and I'll do a comparison. So not going to be strings equals another string. So it's not going to be a string equal another string. If strawberries is greater than 30, colon, and then indent, print a bountiful harvest. And then I get to unindent again because I'm done with the ifs stuff. So elif strawberries is greater than 5, colon, print you have some strawberries, print you have some strawberries, and then unindent again, else, print you don't have many strawberries. So that looks like it works. Okay, the first if elif debugging lab. I have some starter code here. There's something wrong here. It's a common error. And the error has to do with comparison. Remember, setting a variable is with, actually if I run it, I'll see. It tells me what line it's at if number equals to 5. So remember that when I'm setting something equal, that's 1 equal sign. And when I'm comparing them, that's 2 equal signs. This is a super common mistake that people make. So I run it and it's good. Let's try the second debugging one. If I want to test for just one thing, remember that I want an if, elif, 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 else. So I don't want to do an if, else. It will either be at best inefficient or at worst weird things will happen. So in this case, yeah, see when I run it, it says number is 7, but it also says number is neither 5 nor 7. That is super weird, and it has to do with the fact that I have an if, 2 ifs, and an else instead of if, elif, else. So change it to if, elif, else, and it works. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Hope that was useful to you. And if it was, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time.